I'm Marcy Hutton, and I'm here today to talk with you about self-care. So please try to sit back and relax. Maybe you feel fine and don't think you need to be concerned with self-care. We'll get to this later, but many people are dealing with mental health challenges. You might not even realize that you're stressed. A consistent self-care routine can help us all manage stress, lower our risks of illness, and increase our energy levels. Our work is a big part of our lives, but between our personal and professional lives, we can become unproductive, disengaged, and overreactive. Being stressed or burnout can lead to absenteeism and reduced productivity. It benefits both the employee and the workplace to have a culture of self-care. What is stress, you might ask? It can manifest itself in many different ways. The list on your screen is not all-inclusive, but it can give you the idea that this can be physical, mental, or emotional. Jill Johns, a doctor of public health, describes stress as feeling like you just need a break. Take a minute and think about the signs shown here. Do you experience any of these things? If you're a leader or manager, do you suspect any of your team has these experiences? Some of us are not just stressed, we have burnout. This graphic from Psych Central shows the feelings one might have when feeling burnt out. If this is how we are showing up to work, we can very easily negatively influence our colleagues. It can be a challenge for nonprofit managers and leaders to recognize and confront burnout in our employees. We'll talk later about some ways to help communicate with each other. If it all sounds too familiar to you, you aren't alone. The U.S. Surgeon General reports a majority percentage of workers are dealing with mental health conditions. If your team is made up of 10 people, it's likely that 7 to 8 of them are dealing with a symptom of mental health condition, and that their work is contributing to this issue. With unemployment low, employees that are struggling are likely to consider employment where they can expect mental health support. It might seem like stress is bad for us, and as employees and leaders or managers, we should avoid it and help others to avoid it. But that's not necessarily the case. Kelly McGonigal here shares some interesting research in her TED Talk, but basically she highlights something others point out as well. Stress is a normal function of our bodies, and it can help us. The excitement we feel for something that we want to do, like run a race or go on a trip, is also a kind of stress. But in this case, our adrenaline is helping us to accomplish our goals. McGonigal also points out that believing stress is bad for us actually affects the way that it impacts us. So how do we break the cycle of stress? Emily and Amelia Nagasaki recommend 6 methods of breaking our stress cycle. Their evidence-based suggestions help us bring down our stress levels. Have you ever had a really good laugh, or a cry for that matter? And even though whatever you've been worrying about is no different, you feel better? The next time you're feeling your stress rise up or noticing in others, recommend or take a short breathing exercise. It could make a significant difference. As people and leaders and managers, it's critical that we build stress reduction or self-care into our lives. Finding ways to care for ourselves physically and mentally can have positive effects on all of us. Think about some of the activities that bring you joy or help you feel relaxed. There's an example here, and it's in your handout, of a self-care assessment. Find and use a tool like this to do an assessment of your current routines and get inspiration for additional activities. This is something you can do as a group at work and allow those who feel comfortable to share and others to remain private. As you progress in this exercise, make sure that you're mapping out your goals. Think about what's achievable for you. It might be better to start small and build on your success. Maybe you will aim to get 10,000 steps each day, or plan to write in a journal once a week. From a professional perspective, you might work on not volunteering for everything. This can be hard, but setting boundaries is an important way to show and care for yourself. Earlier I mentioned Jill Johns. John's perspective is that by performing self-care, we can build resilience. This resilience gives us the strength and tools to rest and restore ourselves for the next challenge. Having a resilient workforce can help us as leaders to face difficulties in our work without creating additional stresses like turnover or absenteeism. This all sounds great, doesn't it? Let's just all start performing our self-care and live happily ever after. This isn't that easy, of course. And in the nonprofit world in particular, resources can be a challenge. Mission-driven people working in a mission-driven organization are focused on, you guessed it, the mission. That makes it difficult for us to direct time and resources to self-care. If you don't make those hard choices, though, we can be faced with other challenges. Employees will leave or be absent from work, and as individuals, it can be a challenge to build new habits. It's not all doom and gloom, though. The resources you see on your screen are helpful to both employees and leaders. Having an accountability partner can help us to form those new habits. If the nonprofit has the benefit of an employee assistance program, or can get one, this is something that employees can use to get resources that they need as individuals. I mentioned earlier about communication. There are free and low-cost resources available. An example here and in your handout can help create that common vocabulary. It can be very powerful for an employee to know how to convey to their supervisor that they need help or aren't feeling their best. Being able to have conversations around difficult topics can help us as leaders provide resources, build the culture, and walk the walk. Additionally, we can provide other benefits that might help our employees reduce stress or express their concerns more anonymously. Team building is an important part of this, and it builds the trust people need to express themselves and get the support they need when they need it. It can be awkward and forced, though, so it's important to know your team and find consistent ways to grow and build those relationships. We talked about several aspects of stress, burnout, self-care, and resilience. As you leave today's session, I would like two things to stick with you. Wellness and self-care benefit everyone when part of our culture. This applies at home and at work. As leaders and managers, we can provide the tools, resources, and vocabulary to help our teams be more mentally and physically well. This will lead us all to a more productive and engaged workplace. I hope that you will utilize the resources provided in your handout to integrate self-care into your personal and professional lives. Thank you.